on Natural State Sports, your top source for the biggest news in high school sports across Arkansas.
Here we go, here we go!
What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us on episode 4 of Arkansas Preps Weekly, powered by Natural State Sports. My name's Kyle Sutherland. What? Did I say it wrong, Kevin?
No, it's 4. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought that I said it wrong. I was like, man, we've already had enough issues this way. Not issues. I mean, it was just kind of, we've had some things going on, and our schedules just haven't matched up, but better late than never, and better to finally get episode 4 out at least by the middle of the week, now that we've had a couple of really big games. Of course, on Tuesday night, Greenwood was swept by Mountain Home, and obviously a big one in 6A with Rogers Heritage losing for the first time. So we'll get into that. I want to start off first. I want to give a shout out to the hometown team, Arkansas Punishers. I was going through my closet this morning, and I thought, you know what? I'm recording a podcast. Why not give a shameless plug to a team here in Little Rock, Arkansas? So go check them out.
Former Sylvan Hills Bear. Chris Goodman is the GM. He played for Sylvan Hills when I was coaching over there. So yeah, get out and watch those guys. They won 40-0. I think it was a mercy rule because the other team didn't want to finish the game. So
yeah, they're beating people so bad that they don't even want to finish the games. So yes. Shout out to our buddy Chris Goodman, as you said, and also Trip Keeter, another one that I know we talk to a lot. So doing really good things over there are the Punishers. Go check them out. They're all over social media. But I also want to mention, too, if you are watching on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. Also, you can subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast on audio. We finally got that all running. So we also got a good bit of sponsorship spots still left. We are going to have one come on next week that we're going to start reading for. So really excited about that. We're getting our name out across Arkansas, and it's really good to help us help you. So that way we can both get businesses out there, and we can help promote the game through baseball and softball. So we really appreciate all the help. But Kevin, we had a gorgeous week last week. Had some rainouts on Tuesday, and for the rest of the week, it's looking pretty good. But this weekend gonna look kind of nasty again. But I know a big one from last week: Fayetteville and Harbor, they split, but then Fayetteville gave Rogers Heritage that first loss. It was 8-7 in 12 innings. Now, Rogers Heritage did win the first game, but you got to think about Fayetteville. They're still, I think it's 3 games back out of first place, but no question, there is a lot of talent on this team, and right now it's looking like they could be a very dangerous 3 or 4 seed at worst.
That's exactly right. So they've got 4 conference losses now. I don't think they'll have a chance to win it because Heritage and Rogers both have 1 loss each in conference right now. So it's going to be a crosstown rival between Heritage and Rogers for the conference championship in the 6A West. Now, what does the rest of that look like? Bentonville West is going to be a tough 5 or 6 seed. Springdale Harbor, defending 6A state champs, going to be a tough 4 or 3. They split with Fayetteville, so you got some tiebreakers to work in and how that works out. So Springdale Harbor did split with Rogers earlier this year. That's their 1 loss. So still got some things to figure out. Conway, Cabot, Catholic are all chasing Bryant. Cabot still only has that 1 loss, and that's to Bryant. So Bryant's still playing really well right now on top of the 6A Central. It's really kind of playing out kind of like we thought it would. The 8-7 game went 12 innings. I mean, that is a long high school baseball game. There was a great outfield assist. Jason Delamar ran it down in center field, threw it to a cutoff man, which is Layden Schaefer, and they hosed the guy, Rogers Heritage runner at the plate. It was very, very good baseball play. So Heritage 21-1 now. They're going to bounce back. They're going to be fine. They've come back before in games. They did it on spring break, coming from a big deficit. So they're still one of the top teams right there in Class 6A. Should be a fun state tournament. I'm looking forward to getting up there to Northwest Arkansas and watching it.
And obviously, Springdale Harbor still in that mix. Talk a little bit about some of the headlines from the Central Conference this week. I know Bryant's still at 5, of course, Cabot at 6, and then Catholic at 7. So still, as we've talked about all season, I think we've mentioned it every week, dominance at the top there in those top four spots, but then the Central Conference rounding out the rest of the Super 7.
Yeah, and Catholics played good at times. They beat Conway. Lost by a run to Cabot. Cabot's really good in one-run games. It was 3-2. Cabot got up on Catholic 3-0, and then bottom of the 7th inning, Catholic tried to get back in. Brooks Ward hit a 2-run bomb, but it was too little too late. So right now it's Cabot and Bryant and everybody else. Catholic and Conway have the potential to beat anybody. Asher Hamilton and Caleb Short on the mound for Catholic are just as good as anybody in the state. In a one-game setting, they're going to be tough. So last year you saw a first-round matchup between Fayetteville and Catholic, which was Landon Schaefer threw a no-hitter that game. You may see some of the same matchups again this year because everything's kind of stacking up the way it did last year, with the exception of Heritage. Heritage is going to be a 1 or 2 seed, and that's going to get them into that round of 8, which they only have to play 2 games to get to UCA. Wanted to say Baum Stadium there for a minute because just old habits die young. So I think, there's still a lot to be figured out in terms of who's that top team going to be. I think last year Rogers was more dominant, especially with their pitching. This year, not as much. They lost a lot of senior talent last year. They had 6 guys signed to play college baseball. So while I still think the title does run through Northwest Arkansas, I think the Central is closer this year.
Oh, got to unmute my mic again. Down in Class 5A, Valley View in a very highly anticipated matchup in Little Rock. They took down Little Rock Central or Little Rock Christian. Yeah. They didn't just take them down; they smoked them. It was 13-3. Yeah. Valley View was at 4 home runs. Kaysen Becker, the 7-hole hitter, had 2. So just all out dominance, but Valley View also beat them in the regular season last year, and then we saw what happened in the state finals. So I know that one of the things that got lost in translation was, now, of course, you got to remember, Valley View has a very, very highly touted team. They're not just successful on the field. They've got the prospects to go with it. So that was a big reason why you've had them ranked number 1 all season when Little Rock Christian was the defending state champions. Now it really all makes sense why Valley View has been there. Little Rock Christian is still a state title contender. There's no question about that. But Valley View really just flexed its muscle.
That's exactly right. And Kaysen Becker is going to go play college baseball. He's not playing Division I baseball yet, but he hits 2 home runs against Little Rock Christian. Now, the only setback with an in-season regular season game between these two, you don't get to see their top pitching. But Valley View runs Jade Taylor out there. Jade started in the outfield for Valley View last year. He was up to 91 on the mound against Little Rock Christian. That's not fair. I sent a post on social media, on Twitter, in fact, and I tagged my good friend Matt Snyder, who's the pitching coach for Valley View, and I said, so this guy has just been waiting in the wings, and you throw him out there, and he throws 91. And to Matt's, he replied, and the only way that I think Coach Snyder would reply, he had a meme from Top Gun with Maverick saying that's classified. So that was really, it really kind of made my day with that. So it just shows you how deep those guys are. Their series with Greene County Tech got rained out on Tuesday, so they're going to play tonight on Wednesday. So that's going to decide the 5A East. Both of those teams are at least 2 games clear of everybody else. In some instances, 3 and 4. So Valley View and Greene County Tech are going to be the top seeds after Greene County Tech swept Batesville last week. Batesville's got to fight for their life to get in the state tournament, along with teams like Sheridan. So some of the teams that in the preseason we could kind of see as a 3 or 4 seed coming out of their conference, they're having a fight for their life right now. And you mentioned at the top of the show, Mountain Home sweeps Greenwood. So that throws a kink in the 5A West rankings. The 5A West right now, Russellville's on top at 8-2, and that's been against Russellville. They've got 2 of the best arms in the state with Russ Martin and Tristan on the mound. So that being said, now they got to figure it out. It drops Greenwood to the 3 seed because they got 3 losses because they split with Russellville, and then so their matchup with Greenbrier at the end of the season is going to go a long way towards seeding, and it's crazy right now. Grant Carnes is human. Every matchup he's had before now, one run, maybe 2 is all he's given up. He gave up 3 last night, walked 3. So he didn't have his best stuff. It's baseball. That stuff is going to happen. So Greenwood can bounce back. I haven't heard of any injuries or anything. It's just Mountain Home was better last night, and they beat them twice. So that was really good for the Bombers. Bombers are still on the outside looking in for the playoffs, but a lot of fun. And then the 5A South, man, hats off to Coach Matt Wiggin and the Lake Hamilton Wolves. I'll have my baseball notebook. It'll come out in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette tomorrow. So readers, listeners, look for that. I'm really excited about that. I know Kyle's gotten to do some work for those guys as well, and thanks to Eric Taylor, our good friend, for hooking us up with that. So Lake Hamilton's 11-1 in the 5A South, 17-2 overall. They just keep taking care of business. Easton Hurley, we've talked about on here, but he just keeps going out and having good pitching performances. And that's a big thing because of the injury he overcome. And it's week after week. These guys just keep getting better. They're very fundamentally sound. They're not going to wow you when you look at them on the field. You're like, nothing against those guys. They just look like a regular baseball team, but they beat you on every pitch. And that's what's got them 17-2. They'll be at least ranked number 3 next week because everybody else is getting beat. Maumelle, I dropped Maumelle to number 7. I don't think that's anything against Maumelle. I think it's just everybody's playing better right now. Maumelle's got to figure out how to score against these good teams if they want a shot at winning the state title. Greenbrier, they're going to be right in it. Marion won their 2 games this week. So Lake Hamilton surging up, Benton, Russellville. Russellville will be ranked next week for the first time this year.
I want to go back before we head down to 4A. You mentioned Lake Hamilton there for a second. We've touched on them throughout the year and talked about how impressive it is the way that Easton Hurley has come back from his ACL. I didn't realize this, and it makes sense that he is wearing his knee brace because it just happened in the fall, the injury did. But he's out there pitching with the knee brace on. You don't see that a ton. I mean, I know that it does happen. But, Kevin, this was back in, like, October that he tore his ACL. It was against Siloam Springs, I believe.
6-month recovery.
Yeah, because we did a game for the Buzz. It was Greenbrier and Lake Hamilton, I think, the next week after it had happened, because I was talking to Coach Giller and trying to get notes for the game and was asking, Easton this and that, and he goes, wait a second, he's out. So it was, 6 months is pretty insane. Just shows how far we've come in medicine as well. But going down.
And going back.
Go ahead.
Yeah, going back to last Friday, they beat Sheridan 4-2. All right, so that moves them. They moved them to 9-1. Then they come out and beat Arkansas High 7-4, and then beat crosstown rival Hot Springs 10-0 on Tuesday. So they just keep rolling along. Their one loss, Benton 1-0 in extra innings. They could be 19-1 right now.
Yeah, and down to 4A. We'll just start with Region 7. I always like to start with the hard stuff. Don't. You probably just want to throw that out the window because we'll take us all day. But I always like to start with the hard stuff, and then we'll finish up with stuff that does not cause so much brain activity. But I don't know that even Einstein brain activity could really cause what's going on in the 4A7. You look at DeQueen, they beat Nashville for the second time since 2011, which that was in 2022, the last time they did do that. But 13-0 over Nashville in 5 innings. You're shocked by that, but then with everything that's happened in this conference, you're not at the same time, or at least that's how I feel.
Yeah, and DeQueen beat Ashdown too. So right now DeQueen is in the 4th spot for the regional tournament. Ashdown is on the outside looking in. Nashville's 2 losses are to Ashdown and DeQueen. Magnolia, okay, so you got Nashville at 8-2, Magnolia and Arkadelphia at 7-3, and then DeQueen and Ashdown at 6-4. And Camden Fairview's at 6-5. And I know Camden Fairview upset somebody last week. I don't remember who it was. I'll look in a minute. But so you've got 6 teams right there that are all within 2.5 games of each other. And it's like that in the 1-4A too. And the 1-4A is just about as mind-boggling as the 7. So yeah, they're gonna figure it out. That's why it was a little smart aleck move on me in the 4A rankings this week, because on the outside looking in, I put like 7 teams because they're all kind of interchangeable at this point. Prairie Grove's sitting on top of the 1-4A right now, but Shiloh Christian's beat everybody, but they're a game back. So it's got a lot of work, got a lot of stuff to work out. Now, 7-4A does not have a conference tournament. They play a double round robin. The 1-4A plays a district tournament, conference tournament. District and conference are interchangeable terms for our listeners right now. I don't like it, but that's the way it is. AAA decided that. So, with that being said, I think they need to go to a format that is consistent across everywhere. Because if you have an off game in the district tournament, your season's over with. But it shows your depth if you're able to go through a double round robin like a lot of these conferences do and finish in the top 4 and move on to the regionals. That always gives me a good idea of who the better team out there is because they have the longevity and they can show it over a wider body of work.
Also in Class 4A, the big news this week is Lone Oak and Robinson. Now, their other game is tonight as we're recording on a Wednesday, and it'll drop on a Wednesday. Of course, Lone Oak got the 2-1 win over Joe T. Robinson last night in a hard-fought battle. That was actually extra. Was it 9 innings that it went to? I know it went to extras.
Right now, no, that one didn't go to extras. It was 2-1. Steele Eves, one of his most dominant performances of the year. 6 2/3 innings pitched, 14 strikeouts. Did not allow a hit. Jackson Ingle came in for the 1-out save. So they combined for 15 strikeouts. They did walk 5. So, they're beat up a little bit. Lone Oak's beat up a little bit right now. They lost to Greenbrier last week on a walk-off. Cole Spears is out with a hamstring injury. They hope to get him back by regionals. So it was good to see Steele East come out and pitch like that last night because Greenbrier touched him up a little bit last week. They had 3 runs on like 4 or 5 hits. So it was good for him to come out and dominate a team like Robinson. Now, they've clinched at least a share of the 5-4A title. This conference does not do a conference tournament, district tournament either. They do a double round robin. Now, Robinson's going to be the 2 no matter what because third place is Clinton. And Rob's already swept Clinton. Clinton has 5 conference losses. Robinson only has 1, and I think they play 14 games. So Robinson will at least be the 2. They could be the 1 if they win tonight by more than 1 run. We'll see, though.
Also, too, big news that you reported on Wednesday morning that came out of Lone Oak. Brian Eagle will not be coming back as the head baseball coach. He's going to go into a full-time admin role. So talk about that. That's pretty big news. Defending state champion. They're the favorite. They've been the favorite in 4A all season. So big news before the season even ends.
Yeah, and I talked to Coach Eagle this morning, and it's not really shocking. This group of seniors, and I call them the Fab Five because there's 5 of them that have been together. You got Eves, Spears, Culvert, Ingle, and Sullivan. Those 5 have won over 100 games in their career. That's a tall task. Okay, since their freshman year, their sophomore year, they went up to Northeast Arkansas, won the regional. Shiloh Christian bounced them in the quarterfinals that year. Caleb Anderson, who's at Wichita State right now, threw a no-hitter against them. So that team, they've won at least 25 games the last 3 years. Assuming they'll probably win 25 more this year. So Coach Eagle, he's riding this group out. Now, what's behind it? Ryder, Ingle, Jackson's younger brother's a freshman catcher on this team. They got Zay Dyer, who's come on as a number 3, number 4 arm for them this year. That's been really, really effective for the Jackrabbits. So it's a step to where, look, he's going to be a principal in the district and be athletic director full time. So I talked to him this morning, and he's focused on the rest of the season. He's 100% in it. Not to say that he wouldn't be, but he's focused on getting these guys their second straight state title. And I asked him, we kind of went into detail about, how this team goes about every day. Because they've had some adversity this year with injuries, certain things just not breaking their way. And he said these guys go out and battle every day. They're not really concerned about who's coming after them or anything. They just go out there and play. And they're playing at a high level. The results have shown it. They played a really tough schedule. They played some of the best teams in the state, and it's shown. So they don't get caught up on so much of the losses as, and I know we talk about it a lot, but the process of going about their business every day and taking care of it. And it showed last night. Those guys came together for that big 2-1 win over Robinson.
Then heading down to Class 2 or 3A, didn't want to skip 3A out because we got to talk about Booneville and Elkins for sure, because both of them, as of Wednesday, have won 11 consecutive games. Now, I know that these are two that we talked about in the preseason, and they got off to a slow start, and we figured that they would probably pick it up in the back end. Now, both of these teams went deep in the football playoffs. Now, I think you said Elkins, Slade Dean, and or Dizzy Dean, and there was another one that was not playing for Elkins, right?
Yeah, they moved on. They moved on to college football. So, talking to Hunter Corbell, these guys, it's their third straight state or conference title, and they go for back-to-back regional championships. And the 1 and the 4 are matched up against each other. So that's why we're talking about Elkins and Booneville together, because slow starts. I think Elkins at one point was 1-6. They're 17, 18-6 right now. Like you said, they've won 11 straight. So, in talking to Coach Corbell, the freshmen and sophomores just really had to play. They had to get in and get the experience. Caleb Hankins was the closer last year, and he's the starter. He's the main pitcher that goes out there. And kind of the same deal with Booneville. Their basketball went a little further than what they thought it would. I think CAC beat them out, if I'm not mistaken, the 3A state champion. So Booneville had to get their guys back on the diamond. Dax Goff hit his 20th home run of his career, so congratulations to Dax. And he's having a good year. Jace Washburn, who's going to be their main arm down the stretch, had been hurt for a few weeks. So got him back out there. The Rays, they're still playing baseball. And the youngest one recently hit 2 home runs in a game. So Booneville won their conference. Charleston's going to be 2 right there. Elkins, of course, they ran away with theirs. Going down, this is something that really kind of evolved over, the last couple of days since we talked, Kyle, is the 8-3A. Haskell, or not Haskell, but Harmony Grove, Ouachita County is now sitting on top of the 8-3A. We had the Hornets ranked real early in the season, and they got off to a terrible start. But now they're 6-2 in conference play. They avenged those earlier loss this season to DeWitt, beat them 5-4 on Tuesday night. So they're 11-10 overall. Drew Central's fallen down quite a bit. We talked about them last week, I believe, and they really hadn't had a body of work, but they started out 3-0 in conference play. Now they're 5-3. So they're kind of on that cut line right there, Smackover and DeWitt right there. So you got 3 tied for DeWitt and Smackover 5-2, HGOC at 6-2, and then Genoa Central, the other Harmony Grove, Haskell Harmony Grove are going to battle it out in the 7-3A, and those 2 conferences are grouped together in the regional tournament as well.
I think that 3A has been just about as consistent over the past 3 weeks as far as the Super 7 goes, because I think these names I recognized at least for like the past month. So it has pretty stayed consistent, especially when you look at the top. Harding Academy and CAC, they've been at the top the entire time. And then, of course, Gosnell, I know that it's really important end of the season, or at least into the regular season for them. But pretty much that top 3, and then when Walnut Ridge moved up there, it's been about as consistent as any class.
That's right. And Walnut Ridge is now 19-4 on the year. Their one loss recently was to Riverside, who jumped up to number 2 in our Class 2A rankings. They went from outside looking into number 2. You do that when you beat conference rival Rector and then the number 4 team in Class 3A with Walnut Ridge. Pitching, defense is doing big things for them. They got a sophomore on the mound, lighting folks up. He's 5'8", 145, can pitch his tail off. Looking forward to see what Riverside can do. They got a rematch with Rector. That'll decide that 3-2A. So, 3A has been really consistent. DeWitt, they're outside looking in. It's funny because I don't have a ton of players reach out to me, but those guys did, and they wanted to be ranked, man. They were like, what do we got to do to get in a Super 7 poll? Take care of business. Beat your team. Beat the team you're supposed to. Go play baseball. Let me worry about, ranking stuff. But it's fun because those kids, they take pride in that stuff, and I can appreciate that. Hell, that's why we're doing this, Kyle, and that's what we started. That was our mission in the beginning is to make sure these kids have a platform that they can be highlighted and talked about. So, they're going to be all right. I think they got a lot of good senior talent on that team, and they're going to be all right.
Yeah, it creates great water cooler talk for sure. But you transitioned into 2A for me. It was the big news, the big headliner. It was Riverside handing Rector its first loss. And, man, Riverside, their softball team, defending state champions, #1 all season in our ranks on the softball side. So in Lake City, it is pretty exciting times.
Yeah, every time I think of Lake City, I want to put them in Southeast Arkansas. I mean,
Makes sense.
It's just the way I think of Lake City. Yeah, it's just what it is. So, yeah, but man, what a performance last week against Rector. 6-0. They play tonight in the rematch. So, but they beat Walnut Ridge 3-2. They beat Rivercrest 4-3. So they stepped up in to 3A rank and put it to those guys. So going back to the 6-0 win over Rector last week, and I'm going to my stats right here real quick. Zane McClure, the sophomore, 7 innings, 1 hit, 8 strikeouts, 3 walks. And he had a triple. And then Braden Timms had a double as well. These guys can play ball, the Rebels. So they're the hottest team right now. One of their 3 losses, Kyle, was to Woodlawn, 1-0. They lost to Paragould 3-0. And going back to the first game of the year, they lost to Gosnell 2-0. So their 3 losses are to teams. Woodlawn's, of course, 22-1. They're on top of the rankings in Class 2A. But the other 2 are higher class teams, with Gosnell being ranked. Paragould's a better program than what they've been in the past. So, man, if anybody's going to give Woodlawn a run right now, it's the Riverside Rebels.
And also wanted to go to the back of the Super 7. You've got Greenland and Bigelow, and pretty much a toss-up, just depending on what day it is, what team is feeling better. Yeah. Then on the outside looking in, you got Cotter. I think that's their inaugural outside looking in, any kind of thing as far as the Super 7 goes this year.
They are. I got them in there last year because they finished right behind Greenland, but they've won 11 straight now. They're 15-4 overall. They did split with Greenland earlier this year, so there's going to be a tie for that conference title in the 1-2A. Now, I'm not big on ties, and I never have been, but I did not want to, because Riverside had been playing so well, move them up to number 2. I didn't want to take anything away from Bigelow, Greenland, Mansfield, those teams that they jumped. So that's why I got 2 number 7s this week. It's a tie for 7th. So both of those teams, Bigelow's now 9-1. They're going to run away with their conference title. Greenland's right there. Mansfield's now 10-2 on the year. They're wrapping up their conference this week. Then Palestine, Wheatley, and McCrory, they got to figure it out here pretty soon for that 6-2A.
And last but not least, your weekly reminder that Taylor, they're just those dudes. But we've got other news as well. It's their weekly reminder. But Viola, they went 4-0 last week. I know they finished with consecutive 11-1 wins, one of those being over ranked Norfolk. And also St. Joe, they thumped Nemo Vista twice last week, 11-1 and 10-1. They've won 7 consecutively coming into this week. Wasn't sure if they played maybe Monday or Tuesday night, but big weeks for Viola and St. Joe.
Yeah, St. Joe's, they got a game in this week and won. So they're 13-3 on the season now. Getting Keaton Story back on the mound has been huge for them. So here's the deal in 1A. If you got 5 or 6 guys that can hit and you got a pitcher, that'll get you to postseason. If you got 6 or 7 guys that can get on base and you got 2 arms, that puts you in a conversation for a state title right there. So St. Joe's has that right now. Westside Greer's Ferry, man, they're a machine. Shane Davis has those boys rolling up there. Brooks Hip is a sophomore to watch. Can play just about anywhere. I think he's playing first base for him right now. He can swing it really well. They've got some seniors on that team too, but they're 18-1 right now. They're leading that conference. They're 2 games clear of Viola right now. I think they still have 1 more to go with Viola, but yeah, the Longhorns, they got some seniors up there that can swing it really well. They started out the season, I think scored 55 runs in their first 3 games. So getting towards the end of the season, if the arms are fresh, those guys are going to be having a chance to advance in the state tournament. Now, with that being said, Viola got a 4 seed last year because they lost in the first round of the regionals, and upset the number 1 seed. I forget who it was, but it was a team that had been ranked in our Super 7 the whole season. So, the regionals are going to play a big part here in the next couple of weeks in terms of rankings, and it's always interesting to see what matchups we have in the first round because teams can get bounced right away. Nemo, not as strong as they were last year. St. Joe's is taking over that conference pretty handily. It was Wonderview that St. Joe's beat on Monday. So they're going to take control of that conference. They're going to win it. It's just a matter of, St. Joe's, Westside, Greers Ferry, and Taylor. Those are the top 3 right now, as we said last week. And then Mount Ida, they're going to win the 7-1A. They're 4-0 now with all 5 teams in their conference. The other 4 teams they've played, with Mineral Springs coming in number 2 right there. Scranton and Armorel outside looking in. Both of those teams are going to finish at the top of their conference. Just a matter of how they do in regionals if they can, advance in the state tournament. Scranton's always been a team that, they're going to finish on top of their conference, and then they have a shot in regionals to get that 2 or 3 and advance at least 1 round. It wouldn't surprise me if the Rockets this year advanced a little bit further in the state tournament.
And postseason is right around the corner. And if you like what you just listened to, make sure you subscribe and like on YouTube. I guess you can. Well, I guess it is subscribing. It's not liking. I'm just kind of behind on that. Yeah. So make sure you subscribe and hit that notification button on Natural State Sports, their YouTube page. That's where we're going to drop episodes every single week. Hey, even when we have to do it a little bit later, we make sure and still come through each week. That's what we're about. I don't think that we've missed a single week in 3 years during the season, other than, once we get past basketball and all that. So, but like I said at the top of the show, we've got a lot of sponsorship opportunities. We are going to bring one on next week, and then we got another one in the works. But that's the thing. It doesn't just stop with the podcast. We've got stuff that we want to do for written content and multiple other things. So definitely hit us up, apw@naturalstatesports.com, and then you can check out, excuse me, Kevin and I's weekly rankings. Will drop the Super 7 each Monday morning. Of course, unless an emergency happens, but you expect those out each Monday morning, so that way you can start the week and start that water cooler talk that we talked about. So
that's right. Yeah. Listeners and viewers up in Northeast Arkansas, Kyle and I will be on the drive with Cade Carlson every week. I'm Thursdays at 3:30. Kyle, you're on Tuesdays. Is that correct?
It hadn't been like an official weekly thing, but I've been on there the past couple of weeks, and I imagine that I'll do something, at least from here on, here and there. But we do really appreciate Cade Carlton and the drive for bringing us on there. He's done an incredible job of helping us promote, especially with the northeast corner of the state. We love to promote those kids as much as we love to do the rest of the state. So we're very appreciative of the help that they've been.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of good softball and baseball up in that area. I mean, just think of, it starts in Jonesboro, but it just expands outside of there too, because there's so many small schools up there. Man, that Region 3, Conference 3 has had so many good teams in the lower classifications over the past 4 or 5 years. Rivercrest making the run last year. Gosnell this year. They've had Brooklyn, has been a major force up there. So, we really appreciate all of our fans and listeners in Northeast Arkansas, and we love covering you guys. So it's very fortunate that we've developed that relationship, and I've been on with him for 2 years now, going back to when Brad Bobo had the drive up there, and then he moved on to his position at Arkansas State. So we're hoping that all the groundswell from the high school ranks kind of nudges Arkansas State to get some better facilities for baseball.
Yeah, hey, and I'm a big NEA guy myself. My grandmother grew up in Corning before they moved to Southeast Missouri, and my dad grew up in Southeast Missouri. So I got roots up there, and I love to promote that area any chance that I get. So naturalstatesports.com, you can check the rankings and then go over to YouTube, Natural State Sports YouTube channel. And you can also subscribe on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio. If you want to do the audio versions of the podcast, you can find it there on any platform that you listen to your podcast, or at least most of them. But for Kevin Bohannon, Jared Hawthorne, all of us here at Natural State Sports, my name's Kyle Sutherland. We will catch you next week.